those have been my successes so far. I had 2 bills like 20 but we had to.
Committee on Finance will come to order. First up, we have our 1:30 agenda. Thank you to members and audience members who are here and also joining us on Zoom. First up, it is Senate Bill 3338, Senate Draft 2. We have Charmaine Woodard.
Hi. Hi. My name is Nainoa Woodward, and my great-grandparents were sent to Kalaupapa because they had Hansen's disease. The memorial is a representative of the patients of Kalaupapa and how they were resilient and strong as the a'ali'i tree, and how they persevered through the adversity. The memory of them is now in our hearts and needs to be shown to the world. The memorial can help us heal and connect to our kupuna. When I am older, I will visit Kalaupapa and see how they lived in peace and what they accomplished through their lives. Please support Bill SB 3338 for the construction of Kalaupapa Memorial.
Aloha. Thank you. It was at Nainoa.
That is
Oh,
Nainoa
terrific.
Woodward. Yeah.
Perfect.
And I am Charmaine Woodward. It was 8 years ago that I had my son on my lap and before the land board. And now he is just about as tall as I am. And to see this bill kind of in the part of funding and near construction is important, not just for me, but all of our ancestors and the 8,000 patients that were sent to Kalaupapa. It's important, not just for us, but for all of us to remember them and all of their stories. I come before you all today humbly and to ask for your support in this funding. So generations like my son and my other 2 sons that are not here and generations after them can remember and honor their ancestors.
Thank you. Thank you. And then we have the Gray Vanderbilt.
Aloha, Chair Luke,
Aloha.
Vice Chair Yamashita, and members of the Committee on Finance. I'm wearing this hat, which says Malama Ukraine. I usually don't wear a hat. Just out of respect when I'm testifying. And if you don't mind, I'd like to keep it on for this testimony. My name is DeGray Vanderbilt. I'm going to summarize my testimony. It was quite long and had a lot of attachments, but my testimony is given to my many friends that I've had over the years at Kalaupapa. I was a founding member of Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa, and I'm on the board right now. And so many of my friends have passed away. At the beginning of 2021, there were 12 residents living. Today, only 9 remain. We lost 3 heroes, Makia Malo, Barbara Marks, both founding members of Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa, and our president, Clarence Boogie Kahilihiva. We are fortunate to have such a dedicated descendant as Charmaine Woodward, who just testified, to assume Boogie's role as president of the organization. It's great getting the younger generation of descendants involved. They, like so many, the people at Kalapapa, wanted to be present at the unveiling of the memorial because it honored their brave peers that sacrificed so much. In a letter Helen Keller sent to the residents of Kalapapa, she wrote, "For many years, I have read with affection about you, and my heart goes out to you in this message. You are amongst the greatest people whom I know." As noted by the Most Reverend Larry Silva, Bishop of Honolulu, who had descendants at Kalapapa, he wrote, the memorial would also provide family members with a fitting place to pay tribute to their ancestors and find pride and healing. Time is of the essence of this project. The remaining population is elderly. It would be ideal to establish the memorial so the patient residents can see it become a reality. This is a project of statewide interest. And it's a dynamic part of our state's 150-year history. Of the 8,000 Hawaii citizens who were sent to Kalapapa, 2,900 came from Oahu, 2,200 from the island of Hawaii, 1,700 from Maui, 700 from Kauai, 400 from Molokai, and about 40 from Lanai and Ni'ihau. But this affects so many families statewide. I just want to show you all, share a picture. This is a picture taken in front of Iolani Palace of the descendants of one resident in Kalapapa, John Unea, who was sent to Kalapapa in 1893. He was a teacher up in near Hilo, and he became a teacher at Kalapapa. But there are 50 people here for one descendant. So if you have 8,000 and there are only half of that many, that's almost 250,000 people. And those descendants will keep, that number will keep forever because the descendants are always going to be there. The people from Kalapapa and the descendants, there'll be more and more as years go by. I want to just make Valerie Monson, who is the executive director of Kalapapa, was going to testify, but she says she's really just going to stand on her testimony. But I would like to make one point that she made, which was very important. And she said that Kalahano is now asking the legislature for $5 million to build the memorial. The amount would come out to $650 for each person who was sent to Kalapapa and the families who were left behind. We believe this is not too much, considering the sacrifices and pain endured by all the individuals. Most of them, 90% in fact, were Native Hawaiians. Kalapapa is working on plans for an endowment for an additional $5 million to care for the maintenance of the memorial, and this will come from private funds. And as she notes, if the legislature approves funding for construction, a local foundation is offered to consider covering the first year's, several of the first year's maintenance until the buildup of earnings on the endowment fund can sustain the future maintenance of the memorial in perpetuity. And that's a really big deal. And we've been lucky enough to get a lot of publicity. There was a front page article on the Advertiser, and that was just terrific. So I just want to finish up by saying, you know, there's two, at the entrances of this Capitol building, there's two statues gracing these entrances. One is Father Damien, one is Queen Liliuokalani. They were both friends. They both did so much for the folks at Kalapapa. And on the Father Damien statue, it says, their courage and compassion spared others from their own tragic fate. And it also is inscribed on the base of Father Damien's statue, greater love has no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. St. Damien laid down his life, and so did the people of Kalaupapa. And hopefully, based on so much of what they've done to help society throughout the years, we hope that this memorial will get funded. So thank you very much. And can I just have one quick explanation? I want to give this to another young descendant who is testifying. This is a picture that was taken a few years ago, and it shows Nainoa here. And the man in the middle is Hitoshi Hida, who is an immigrant from Japan. And he immigrated in 1961, born in Hiroshima, and he was responsible for all the renderings and a lot of the memorial design elements. And above in this picture is Elaine Kim Remigio. Her parents immigrated from Korea to Hana. She was born, she moved to Lanai, and she caught leprosy, was taken from her husband and 2 children and sent to Kalaupapa, where she went on to do great things in business and other ways. And here she is in Beijing, China, at a leprosy settlement, helping a young leprosy patient with sewing patterns. So there's a tremendous history, both in the state, on the mainland, and internationally for this Kalaupapa memorial. And we hope you can fund it, and I appreciate the extra time, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up it is Keaulani Lam. Yes, go ahead. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. I'm so grateful to all of you. I was going to call in on the Zoom. I live in Aiea, but I thought you folks are coming here to do this, and so I'm going to come here too.
Thank you.
And I'm really grateful. We've been waiting many years. I am on the board of Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa. I also am a member, and I also served on the design committee with great gratitude to be on there. And I have submitted my comments, and so I really don't, I will stand on them, but the reason I wanted to say something is to please encourage you to consider putting the money back into the bill. It means a great deal. The last time we came here in person was before COVID. And we've lost so many already of our residents in that time. It's just a matter of time before the last one takes the last breath. And this is for them that we are here. I am the descendant of 4 people from Hawaii Island. 4 young people, they were children, 9, 10, 16, and before 18. And they were given 3 days after they were diagnosed by their school nurse, 3 days to be in Honolulu from Hilo. And they had to take a car to Kauai and a boat all the way to Oahu, and then be delivered to Kalihi Hospital at Sand Island. And it's very emotional for me to be here today. I know why the ancestors came, because I did not know. And I know I was 10 years old. And this is a photo of my uncle, Henry, the only one who I was ever able to know, who was 10 years old when he was taken into custody. That's the terminology that they used, taken into custody. Nobody told him where he was going, why he was there, what was going to happen, except he overheard the nurse say to his mother, "You have to leave now, you can't come, and you will never see your son again." And that's Nainoa's age. Can we even imagine? Can we even imagine this happening? And it's in this moment of the pandemic that we have the clearest compassion and understanding of what that felt like for the people who went. So Uncle, before he passed, he sent his testimony to Washington, D.C. to ask for permission to have this memorial built. And what he said is, I'm actually not asking for myself, I'm asking for the thousands of others who came before who didn't have all the resources that I was given, who died without any connection to their family, severed from them, never saw them again, who just want to be remembered. And so we're very grateful to you for bringing it this far. And as the rain is starting to fall outside and the ho'ailona are all around us, I thank you so much for all that you're doing. Mahalo.
Mahalo, thank you for being here. Anyone else who wants to testify in person before I go to Zoom testimony? Okay, go ahead.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair. My name is Wally Inglis, resident of Palo Valley. Just want to insert one name here. Several names of Kalaupapa figures have been mentioned, but I would like to mention Bernard Punikaya. Bernard was one of the closest friends I ever had. He was my daughter's godfather. He was the voice of the Kalaupapa patients for years and years. We stood with Bernard, some of you old folks may remember, in front of Washington Place 5 years on Friday afternoons. Save Hale Mohalo. And in Pearl City, leprosy patients were being evicted by this state. So I think Bernard's mantra, and he said it many times, I want to see the names. I want to see the names. And, you know, his name is on a little stone now over on Kalaupapa. He's been gone 10 years, but he wants to see all the names. He didn't live to see them. I don't think I'll live to see them either. I'm coming up on 85, but the names need to be seen. Please pass the bill and in its original form with the 5 million, if possible. Mahalo.
Thank you. Anyone else before we proceed to Zoom testifiers? If not, let's move on to Zoom. Department of Health.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, respected representatives. My name is Glenn Wasserman. I'm the Chief of Communicable Disease and Public Health Nursing Division, and I'm representing the Director of Health for this bill. The department stands on its testimony providing comments which emphasize that an appropriation to support construction of this monument should be in the form of a capital improvement project to assure the necessary time and expertise to manage and complete this project.
Thank you very much. Next up is Valerie Monson. Okay, thank you. Any other testifiers on Zoom? If not, questions? If not, thank you for being here. Let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 3094, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. First up, it is DOE.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and members of the committee. I'm Terry Ushijima, Interim Assistant Superintendent with the Department of Education, testifying on behalf of Interim Superintendent Kitayashi. We stand on a written testimony in support of SB 3094 SD2 HD1. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is HSTA.
Aloha, Laverne Moore, speaking on behalf of Osa Tui Jr., President of the Hawaii State Teachers Association. The HST supports this legislation, and we want to make sure that the teachers are hired in state and not outsourcing teachers from out of the state of Hawaii, and that they need to be HTSB, Hawaii Teacher Standard Board licensed teachers. We would like to keep our jobs in Hawaii, and we want to hire our own. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testifier, either in Zoom or in person? If not, questions? Representative Martin.
Hi, I have a question for Ms. Urijima from the OE. In my district, there is one school that 4 classrooms are being used for a virtual school right now, unrelated to the students of that school. If this facility was built, would that replace all of, I don't know if the school in my district is the only one or if there's many scattered around, but would it replace those facilities?
So we are looking in terms of a state level functioning virtual program and option. So it would consist of students across the state and not specific to a certain area. As for schools, as they look at different ways of delivering instruction based on how students learn and their different needs, they are likely at some schools to continue to provide those types of learning opportunities. So it may not necessarily replace, it may provide other options for students at different schools.
Okay, the one that I'm mentioning at Keolu School does not serve the Keolu School students. It's a statewide, or I don't know who it serves. So I guess the answer for that one would be yes, this would replace those types of facilities that are unrelated to the school that they're at right now.
So I'm trying to make sure I understand your
Yeah.
question. So the state program would consist of students from across the state, the different islands. So it would not, and if there are other schools who would like their own programs that they want to offer virtually, they may also continue to do that.
Okay, so there wouldn't be any other scattered state facilities. They would be consolidated into this one.
As we look at the development and the outreach of the virtual program, we will be looking at different sites. And it may be possible at some point that we might have some sites on some of our neighbor islands. So I'm not able to say that it would be the only facility.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 3095, Department of Education. Mr. Tanaka.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, members of the committee, Randy Tanaka, Office of Facilities and Operations. We stand by our testimony and here to answer any questions should you have any. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier, either on Zoom or in person? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 3098. First up, it's Department of Education. Mr. Tanaka. This is the lead abatement.
Thank you. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, we stand by our testimony. We have concluded studies on the Department of Health has concluded studies on 106 elementary schools. We need to address this issue, and this is part of the request so we can change out those faucets. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you. HSTA.
Aloha Chair and members of the committee, Laverne Moore speaking on behalf of Osa Tui Jr., President of the Hawaii State Teachers Association. We support this legislation and we thank you so much for doing this. It is super important that we keep our students and staff healthy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Department of Health.
Good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Diana Felton. I'm the toxicologist with the Hawaii Department of Health and one of the co-leads on the 2021 WIN project to test for lead in drinking water at schools and childcare facilities across Hawaii. That project results is what led to this emergency appropriation, looking for funding to replace fixtures at over 1,000 taps that tested high for lead at 102 elementary schools across the state. We stand on our written testimony, and I'm happy to answer questions about the testing program or remediation options. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testifier, either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions, Representative Kobayashi.
For DOE, are there other schools, non-elementary schools, non-childcare that might have elevated lead?
That is a possibility, and I'll defer to Dr. Felton. The area we have most concerns of is the elementary schools. I think we have another 70 some to complete the study, and we intend to do that this year. And then we will proceed funding to replace the faucets, but we will continue until we get all the elementary schools done.
Subsequently, there might be another similar funding request for intermediate and middle schools and high schools.
Yes, that is possible, but Dr. Felton, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tanaka, the amount that we have is $1,850,000. Is there any adjustments to that, or is that the amount, the latest amount?
We've done a calculation of the 106 schools because we may find the 76. We don't have a a reasonable number yet till we finish the testing. And then we'd go and complete those and request for additional funding.
Do you expect the testing to be done before session?
No.
Okay,
no,
so the amount currently requested is the 1.8 million.
Correct.
Okay. Vice Chair?
Yeah, thank you. Is it only fixtures or could it be pipe too?
You know, right now it's just fixtures. We've done some reevaluation, and right now it seems to be only the fixtures.
Okay, some of the older schools I would assume have lead pipes.
Yes, we've tested a pretty good range. But right now, like I said, it's only showing up in the fixtures that we're aware of. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Now, in your wisdom, if you would like to add more money to cover the other 76, I leave it to your opportunity. Thank you.
Also, okay, let me follow up then. So the plan is then to replace the fixtures and then retest and then see if it's okay?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Canal. But isn't it, to follow up, isn't it likely that there is lead in places other than the fixtures?
Dr. Felton, yes, there is always that possibility. But so far we found, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I can explain a little bit about the testing process. So we went through and tested all the taps at the 106 schools that are used for any kind of consumption. We did first draw tests, which is immediately out of the water after the taps sit. That tests what's in the fixture. Then any of those that tested high, we went back and retested both the first draw and then a flushed sample. And that flushed sample, after you run the water for a while, that tells you about what's going on deeper in the plumbing. And the vast majority of those did not show elevations of those flushed samples that were on follow-up. So we feel fairly confident that the majority of the problems are in the fixtures, and really think that getting the fixtures replaced will eliminate the vast majority of the lead hazards at the elementary schools.
Thank you.
The estimated cost we've come up with is about $1,700 per fixture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2817. First up, it is Department of Education.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Sean Bacon, Interim Assistant Superintendent, testifying on behalf of Superintendent Keith Hayashi and the department. The department stands on its written testimony and support and is available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier, either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2824. First up, it is Hawaii Kids Can.
Well, hi, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm David Miyashiro, the Executive Director of Hawaii Kids Can. We are in strong support of this bill. We did want to point out that it creates a useful framework for future governors and the Senate confirmation process, increases the strategic thinking, consistency, and transparency of the Board of Education. Education is more complex now than ever, especially as we come out of this pandemic. And one of the opportunities actually with an appointed board versus an elected board is to think more holistically about the perspectives and backgrounds represented. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Trevor Abrazo with the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii. We'll stand on a written testimony and support, and just want to note having board members with experience and knowledge of work-based learning and internships, apprenticeships is something that we support and something that we'd like to see more in schools. So thank you so much for this time.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier, either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2862. First up, it is Department of Education. A.S. Tanaka. This is for AC.
I'm sorry, AC.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Yes, we intend to continue our AC introduction to all our classrooms. There are two factors that drive this. It's really the electrical upgrades. And that'll take some time. Our intention is to install what we can and then we'll concurrently work on the electrical upgrades. The other issue we need to remind ourselves of is that there are energy costs that are going to go up as we install more AC units, but we understand the benefit for education when the kids are in a more comfortable environment. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. HSTA.
Aloha Chair, members of the committee, Laverne Moore speaking on behalf of Oso Tui Junior, President of the Hawaii State Teachers Association. We support this bill. Why would we not? We thank you for the pass of air conditioning our rooms. And I want to tell you something, it really makes a difference. My students who come in the morning when it's cool, I get the lessons done. In the afternoon, they're dragging in, and it takes me 2 days to do what I do in the morning. So air conditioning does make a difference in elevating the type of academic progress we get from our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other individuals who want to testify either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions. If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2893. This is Department of Education.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, members of the committee. I'm Kara Tanimura, Interim Assistant Superintendent for the Office of Strategy, Innovation, and Performance, testifying on behalf of the Department of Education. The department stands on its written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, HSTA.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Laverne Moore speaking on behalf of Oso Tui Junior, President of the HSTA. We support this bill. It's a much needed bill that helps our low-income families in Title I schools. And it also helps the teachers so that with the added supplies that are made available, they do not have to pay from their own pockets. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Any other person wishing to testify either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions. If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2818. First up, it is the DOE.
Good afternoon again, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Terry Ushijima again here. I'm testifying on behalf of the Department of Education. We stand on our written testimony in support of this measure, and we're available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other individuals wishing to testify in person before I go to Zoom? If not, Hawaii After School Alliance.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chairs, and members of the committee. My name is Paula Adams with the Hawaii After School Alliance. I'm here in support of the bill that will establish a position of summer learning coordinator. As you know, the DOE is allocating about $20 million to summer for the next few years, thanks to the American Rescue Plan. This is a great investment for our students, but our schools need support. They need support to provide high quality summer programs. They need support so they can partner with our community-based organizations. They need support to leverage all the resources and funding that are available for them. Having a statewide summer coordinator will help with all these functions. Our students deserve to participate in summer programs. When we listen to them, they share how much fun, how engaged they were during those summer days, learning about everything, about new things in a non-traditional way. For all these reasons, we need a summer learning coordinator. Thank you so much for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you. That's all the testifiers who signed up. Anyone else wishing to testify in person or on Zoom? Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Zhizi Zhong, and I'm testifying in support of this measure on behalf of my organization, CARES. We have a small after-school arts program, and we are registered with the Hawaii After School Alliance in their after-school program database. for the purpose of addressing what was not explicitly outlined to be implemented by the DOE Summer Coordinator, I'd like to highlight trauma-informed care, and social emotional learning, SEL, as subject matters of consideration to be integrated into the summer coordination plan. Oftentimes, teachers, parents, and program coordinators put an overemphasis on academics instead of addressing students' need for nurture, care, social development, and mental health awareness. At after-school and summer programs, students participate in extracurricular activities. They spend their time developing relationships with their friends and teachers, processing emotions, and growing socially and emotionally. It is all part of the healthy process of transitioning from student to adult. Social stressors are inevitable. Bullying, ostracizing, domestic abuse, family drama, these are the sources of trauma for students. It is important to recognize students are not capable of processing and healing on their own. It is an educator's duty to point ahead to what lies ahead and if there's a gap to be addressed. In many instances, it is not an opportunity gap, creating a disparity in access to quality education and resources that causes students to be unsuccessful. In many instances, students are unsuccessful because they do not have adequate support outside of school. In a recent panel, Lieutenant Governor Green, who is an emergency room doctor, said trauma was going to be the most significant challenge we will have to recover from because of the pandemic. Trauma has an enormous impact on students' study patterns, mental acuity, concentration, and cognitive functioning. If the legislature and DOE will help to address the inevitable trauma students must face, they will have succeeded in affecting healthy development in students. And consequently, it would help students to excel academically and then become positive contributors to society. What I'm proposing is not for elementary school students to be learning about therapy. What I'm proposing is for there to be an integration of healthy activities and therapeutic activities proven by science-based knowledge and evidence-based research to engage students outside of their regular curriculum. In our after-school arts program, we have an art class in which we explore emotions and learn to inspire each other. We have performance class to boost confidence and to work on self-esteem. We also have an animal nurture class to learn about care and empathy for sentient beings, and a boxing class to combat stress and fatigue. These activities help students with trauma they face at schools. It is an educational experience. It strengthens them physically and mentally, and it provides vocational opportunities. Thank you for the chance to testify.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? Yes, Ms. Wu.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. It's nice to be back in person. I'm from Hawaii Children's Action Network, and we're a member of the He'e Coalition, the Hui for Excellence in Education. So I'm just standing on our written testimony in support of the Summer Learning Coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 28.
Education. We stand on our written testimony offering comments on SB 2816 SD2 HD1. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hawaii Kids Can.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I just wanted to point out that an Aloha United Way report was released yesterday showing that 47% of our keiki statewide are in financially insecure households, which is why we are supporting this bill. We do not believe the funding by nature is duplicative, as it allows families to fill pukas that they need to fill. We don't think that the full $79 million appropriation that was suggested by the department is needed to get this program going. We think this will actually take pressure off of teachers who are overworked and wearing far too many hats these days. We don't think there's a need to reinvent the wheel. There are models out there that could work well for this. And we have great local partners who focus on abundance and what makes Hawaii great. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next up it is HSTA.
Aloha, Chair, members of the committee. Laverne Moore, on behalf of Osa Tui Jr., President of the Hawaii State Teachers Association, we respectfully oppose this bill. And we believe that this bill, the money could be better used giving it directly to the DOE, and that there is not a need to have a grant and have an outside provider to do this. And that is why we respectfully oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifiers, either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2081, Department of Education.
Good afternoon. Terry Ushijima again. We stand on our written testimony in support of SB 2081 SD2. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next up, the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. The Chamber of Commerce stands in support of this measure and happy to stand on a written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifiers, either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions. If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 3190. First up, Department of Education.
Thank you. Sorry, I hope you're not getting tired of seeing me. Thank you very much for this opportunity to testify. Terry Ushijima here again. We stand on our written testimony in support of SB 3190 SD2 HD1. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next up is Kobe Chalk.
Aloha, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and members of the committee. My name is Kobe Chalk. I'm a longtime Windward resident and a staunch supporter of aquaculture in our state. I believe that aquaculture is a possibility for the state to diversify its economy, create 21st century jobs, and really be less reliant on imports from the mainland. But developing an industry takes time. It takes investment, it takes infrastructure, and education or workforce development. This bill will provide workforce development to kids in Waianae, as they will be able to learn and work with industry professionals on fish hatchery. Similarly, I believe Kaneohe and Castle High School can be a great place for this pilot program to take place as well. Castle High School is located just a few blocks from Kaneohe Bay. It's close to Waikalua, Loko'ia, and Coconut Island. All of these places are areas that study marine biology and or practice aquaculture in some form. I'm proposing that Castle High School be added to the pilot program, and that in addition to what's already in the bill, that the Department of Education also consults or works with the Department of Agriculture's aquaculture division in the technical aspects and curriculum development that's going to be taking place. I believe these amendments will already support the efforts made by Castle High School in their aquaculture initiative and provide an accelerated start to this program for the kids in the Windward side. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier in person before I go to Zoom testifiers? If not, first up it is Department of Land and Natural Resources.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Brian Nielsen with the Division of Aquatic Resources. We stand on our written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Department of Agriculture.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, members of the committee. The Department of Agriculture, Morris Sata on behalf of the Department of Agriculture. The department will stand on its written testimony, but we would like to echo the prior testifiers' recommendation to include Castle High School into this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2182, Department of Education.
Good afternoon, Terry Ushijima for the Department of Education. We stand on a written testimony in support of SB 2182 SD1 HD1. Thank you.
Thank you. On Zoom, Local Food Coalition.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and members of the committee. Kendo Matsuyoshi on behalf of the Local Food Coalition. The coalition will stand on its written testimony in support of the measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up it is Hawaii Farm to School Hui.
Aloha mai kako, Lydie Bernal, coordinator of the Hawaii Farm to School Hui with Hawaii Public Health Institute. We stand on our written testimony in strong support of the bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Hawaii Food Industry Association. Okay, any other testifier either in person or on Zoom? Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Zhizi Zhong, and I'm testifying in support of, whoops, I'm reading something I wrote from another, sorry. Okay, my name is Zhizi is Zhong, and I'm testifying in strong support of the measure on behalf of my organization, CARES, Community and Relationships Exchange Services. We are a social service organization located in the heart of Kalihi, providing educational experiences to the community. Establishing a school garden position within DOE's Office of Curriculum and Instructional Design is necessary to successfully implement the following. 1, improvement to students' health. 2, development of an educated agricultural workforce. And 3, acceleration of garden and farm-based education for public schools. These parameters were set forth by the Hawaii Farm to School program as proposed by Act 175, which was passed in 2021. Learning gardens and farms on schools plays a central role in protecting student health, recovering and advancing academic achievement, and strengthening social and emotional well-being. Gardens and farms are proven to improve mental and physical health. Gardens and farms are also help people to feel joy and happiness. There are so many health benefits associated with gardening and farming. A national study of nearly 20,000 participants revealed that spending 2 or more hours per week in nature, either all at once or cumulatively, is linked with better health and well-being. Appropriating funds for the technical support and startup resources for school gardens is necessary. Students should have equitable access to healthy and fun activities. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? If not, questions?
I actually have a question for the DOE if anyone wants to. Thank you. So the DOE's testimony says specifically that the school garden coordinator position is essential to successfully implementing the Hawaii Farm to School program. How is it essential?
Well, currently, we don't have such a position that's dedicated to this effort. And in fact, in our office, we have a specialist designed for this different subject areas. And currently, we're doing a search for our science specialists. So in the past, the science specialists, amongst the other duties, would try to help in whatever ways are possible. But in terms of looking at this specific focus area, we would need someone to do the coordination, to be able to visit sites, to talk with various agencies and people involved. So it's a current void that we do not have.
So the reason I ask is the gardens already exist as is, right? And in terms of farm to school, almost all of that's going to be produced off-site. It's not like these schools are going to be producing in commercial quantities. So I'm trying to find how these two things are related, and then also how this position is necessary, given that the gardening program already exists, and each school kind of has their, it's decentralized at the moment, right? So is it just a need for centralization?
I think that might be part of it, but our schools have gardens in different stages of development. And looking in terms of the future direction, we're also, in this context, of looking at from farm to table type of idea, there's, I think, a lot of other steps that would need to be figured out. So some schools may want to start some programs, others may be expanding, others may be tying it into their current commercial enterprise initiatives. So although we do have gardens, they're at different stages, and you're right, it's not coordinated centrally at this time in our office.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Town, I think Ms. Lydie Burnell also wanted to address your question.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to add to that. So Farm to School really involves both the school food aspect and the educational school garden aspect. What we've seen in the past with Farm to School in the DOE is that they may have been able to introduce new items to the menu. However, the educational component, which starts in a school garden, it goes into the classroom as well, where students are growing the food, they're seeing how it's grown, and they're getting to taste it and learn about, the nutritional value, the farmers that do grow it. That's the whole other side of Farm to School that this position would fulfill, is developing the students' relationship with local food through gardens and nutrition education in the classroom that goes hand in hand with the school food side of farm to school that is being delivered by the Office of Facilities and Food Services branch. Gardens are also an amazing outdoor classroom that many students that don't do well necessarily in the indoor setting really are the ones that thrive in the garden. So having a coordinated program within the DOE is really needed to support high quality garden programming as well as the curricular integration that a lot of teachers are seeking. So I hope that helps to answer your question. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2184, Department of Education.
Good afternoon again, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Terry Ushijima, testifying on behalf of the Department of Education. We stand on our written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. The Chamber of Commerce stands on its written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testifier, either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2823. First up, it is HST.
Aloha Chair, members of the committee. Laverne Moore, on behalf of Osa Tui Jr., President of the Hawaii State Teachers Association. The Hawaii State Teachers Association supports this bill. Mental and behavioral health experts are needed in schools now more than ever. This bill will support the recruitment and retention of highly qualified, nationally certified school psychologists in our schools. This would be especially helpful since state licensing for school psychologists is not available in our state, the only state in the nation without state licensing for school psychologists. Can you imagine? Those who work with nails cannot work on the public and doing their nails if they're not licensed. But yet the state of Hawaii allows school psychologists who are not licensed to work with our most valuable assets, our students who really need professional help. We teachers are not able to really do that job. I've been in the situation twice this year and needing a school psychologist to work with an emotional problem. This is a severe issue that we have, and this bill is needed to help get us certified school psychologists to work with our students in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Department of Education.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and members of the committee. Sean Bacon, Interim Assistant Superintendent, testifying on behalf of Keith Hayashi and the Department of Education. The department stands on its written testimony, providing comments, and is available to answer any questions. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Hey Coalition.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Nicole Wu from Hawaii Children's Action Network again. We're part of HE'e, the Hui for Excellence in Education. I'll stand on our written testimony in support of this school psychologist certification incentive program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other individuals wishing to testify in person before I move to Zoom testifier? If not, we have Hawaii Association of School Psychologists.
Aloha, I'm Leslie Bonnick with the Hawaii Association of School Psychologists. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. We stand in support of our written testimony, and pretty much a lot of what I was going to say, HSTA already said. So thank you very much for that support. In addition to being the only state in the nation without a credential for school psychologists, our contracts are not even negotiated with the Department of Education, as we are in HGEA Unit 13. So for the Office of Collective Bargaining opposition, we would love to be able to collectively bargain. Unfortunately, the way that we are thrown into the union at this time, that is not a possibility for us. We have sat down with the superintendent previously, Kishimoto, and she even said herself, oh my God, I have no say in your guys' contracts. So while we would love to be able to do it contractually, unfortunately, we are not in a unit of the union that allows us to do so. So we must do so legislatively in the same way that the teacher and school counselor incentive program had previously been done through the legislative process. Right now, there are maybe 20 some school psychs who actually qualify for this. Because there's no credential, this would afford Hawaii the opportunity to bring in some more highly qualified school psychologists by offering this incentive program and or allowing those that are practicing as school psychologists who are eligible to obtain that credentialing that would ensure for ongoing professional development, as well as keeping up to date with the profession undergoing that national rigor that is so much required when doing national certification. I'm also available if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Angie Graham.
Aloha, Chair and members of the committee. I stand by my written testimony in support of this measure. And I just want to say that this bill would immensely help with the retention and recruitment of highly qualified school psychologists to Hawaii. So thank you so much for listening to our bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2822. First up, it is Department of Education.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Dr. Yvonne Humble, Office of Student Support Services, testifying on behalf of the Hawaii State Department of Education. Department stands on its testimony and support. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you. Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Nicole Wu from Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks. We originally supported this bill when it required the Department of Education to offer optional asthma education and training. It was changed to just authorize or allow the DOE to do this, which kind of takes the teeth out of the bill. So we respectfully request that the language be changed back from shall, from the may that's in it now back to the original shall, so that it actually does something. Thank you.
Thank you very much. American Lung Association of Hawaii.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Pedro Haro, Executive Director of the American Lung Association. We stand on our written testimony, which is in support with suggested amendments that are suggested by HCAN prior to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other individual wishing to testify, either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions? Now let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2186. First up, it is Department of Education. Mr. Tanaka.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Randy Tanaka. We are in support of this legislation, of this bill. If you have any questions, here to respond. Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you very much. Any other individuals wishing to testify in person before I go to Zoom? If not, DLNR.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Luke Sarvis for the Department of Land Natural Resources. We stand on our written testimony offering comments and a suggested amendment and will be available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 3369, State Procurement Office.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Bonnie Kahapui, Acting Administrator for the State Procurement Office. We stand on our written testimony, providing comments regarding other considerations in conjunction with establishing a centralized procurement environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Department of Human Services on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Lila King, representing the Department of Human Services. We stand on our written testimony, appreciating the intent of the bill and providing comments. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier, either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2385. First up, State Procurement Office.
Good afternoon, Chair. Again, Bonnie Kahapui for the State Procurement Office. The State Procurement Office stands in support of this bill, providing revised language to clarify the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Mr. Chut.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
My name is Daniel Chand. Mr. Mizue could not be here. And I'd like to say that the AIA can remove its objection to the bill if a dedicated new subsection covering fewer than 3 is put into the law. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other individuals wishing to testify in person before I move to Zoom? If not, let's go on Zoom. Department of Transportation.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and distinguished members of the Finance Committee, Jake Butai for DOT. We stand on our written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up it is ACEC Hawaii.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and committee members. Ikaika Kincaid with ACECH. Just wanted to say that we did provide comments on this bill with suggested language, which we worked hard to craft with Department of Transportation as well as the SPO. And we did agree to that language. However, you know, this law is to change basically the Bible of QBS for our professional services. And we did feel that we did have to kind of rush into it, and you know, it would be good if there was some more input by other stakeholders out there, so everybody could vet the language thoroughly. You know, like I said, we kind of rushed. We didn't have a chance to communicate with everybody that we really wanted to on this, but we did agree to the language, and we thank HDOT as well as SPO for working with us to craft that language that we submitted in our testimony. So stand by for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. AIA Hawaii State Council.
Already tested.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you very much. And then we have Sandy Wong.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and members of the committee. My name is Sandy Wong. I would echo the testimony of ACEC Hawaii. I think some of his testimony was cut off. Basically, in its current form, ACEC opposes this bill. But as Mr. Kincaid said, we did work with DOT and the State Procurement Office. We came to some agreement on some language that we're all proposing. But we still do have our reservations because QBS is very important, not only to design professionals, but the state in its whole and the residents, to make sure that when the state uses taxpayers' money, that they are going to get the most qualified person to do the work and not, you know, Uncle Joe or Auntie Sally. So we did, I am submitting comments. I echo the concerns of ACEC, and I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifiers on Zoom or anyone else? If not, questions. If not, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 3040, State Procurement Office.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Bonnie Kahakui, State Procurement Office. We stand in strong support of this bill, which would allow the State Procurement Office to have a special fund in order to develop an automated procurement system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is State Council on Developmental Disabilities. Thank you, Chair. We stand in strong support. Thank you very much. Department of Transportation on Zoom.
Aloha, Chair. Sorry, I was having unmuting, but we stand on our testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Tax Foundation of Hawaii. Okay, any other testifiers, either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions. If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2387, State Procurement Office.
This is the last time. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. The State Procurement Office supports the intent of this bill to provide transparency and fairness in the procurement activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this bill, either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions. If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 3252. First up, it is Civil Beat Law Center for the public interest.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Brian Black, Executive Director for the Sylvia Law Center for the Public Interest. Just emphasizing that the impact of this fiscally is minimal. The bill is targeted directly at a very narrow category of requesters who are acting in the public interest, but the benefit to the public is huge because these requesters are all trying to educate the general public. So there's a small fiscal benefit effect, but a huge public benefit. Now I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to testify in person before I go to Zoom testifier? Anybody in person? Otherwise, we'll go to first up DHS.
Good afternoon, and aloha Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and members of the committee. Amanda Stevens representing the Department of Human Services. The department stands on the submitted testimony, provides comments, and appreciates the intent of the measure and defers to other impacted departments. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you very much. Next up is Attorney General's Office.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Stella Camp from the Attorney General's Office. The department opposes this bill for the reasons set forth in our written testimony, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is DCCA.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Shelley Choi. I'm here testifying on behalf of Alani Kiyoki, the Licensing Administrator of the Department's Professional Vocational Licensing Division. We'd like to stand on our written testimony providing comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is OIP.
Good afternoon, Cheryl Park for OIP. We submitted detailed written testimony, so we won't go over all of that. For now, I'd like to emphasize that this bill will require a lot of time and resources by OIP to revise and finalize our administrative rules. And we also have some additional interim work that we expect to undertake this session. Unfortunately, our backlog doubled during the time that we had 4 vacancies, and we have also seen big increases in new cases and inquiries this year. Therefore, in this bill, we hope that you will add an appropriation and provide OIP with 2 new positions to be able to do this work and reduce our backlog as well as prepare for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is DLNR.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members. The department stands on its written testimony in opposition, mostly because we already get very broad requests, which we use the mechanism of funding to narrow those requests. And so if there's a waiver, we are very sure that we will get very large and complicated requests for search and segregation, and it's going to be somewhat overwhelming for our department. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Department of Agriculture.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, members of the committee, Morisata for the department. The department will stand on its written testimony in opposition to this measure and is available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Honolulu Police Department.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, members of the committee. I'm Major Joseph Trinidad, Honolulu Police Department. We stand by written testimony in support with reservations, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier in Zoom or in person? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the last bill, Senate Bill 3282. First up, it is DAGS.
Aloha mai kako, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. It's a joy to be back here in person. Representing DAGS, I am Dr. Adam Jensen, and I have the honor of serving as State Archivist and Administrator of the Public Archives. DAGS stands on its testimony, and we encourage you to really take a hard look at this because we have an opportunity to free up a lot of office space. If you tour, you see all these boxes of records being stored around. We have a warehouse in Mapunapuna that's only half full. And the reason it's half full is we don't have staff to move boxes from agencies in. Agencies don't have staff. We need a funding mechanism to be able to move the boxes so that we can much more efficiently and effectively store these records for as long as they're legally required. And I would also ask the committee to take a look at Senate Draft 1, because the Ways and Means Committee took it a little bit step further and said, we need to do away with paper. We need to move to a fully digital economy, and they put in positions and funding in order to do that. And we are very ready and willing to work with ETS to make this happen. We have an opportunity here to be a leader among all the other states in how we deal with our records efficiently, effectively, and with an incredible level of transparency we cannot do in paper records. So I appreciate your consideration of this bill, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Any other individuals wishing to testify in person? If not, let's move to Zoom. Office of Enterprise Technology Services, Mr. Murdoch.
Aloha will stand on our testimony in support of the bill.
Okay, thank you. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's recess for decision making. Good afternoon. Finance Committee will reconvene for decision-making for our 1:30 agenda. First up is Senate Bill 3338, Senate Draft 2. This is something unusual that the Finance Committee will do. Usually we don't like to, we usually wait till the end of conference to fill in the amount, but we do appreciate the compelling testimony from descendants of Kalapapa and people who care about what's going on. So for this, the recommendation is to pass as a HD1, inserting $5 million for the Kalapapa monument, and then effective July 1, 2022, as a commitment by this body to support the individuals who have been taken away from their homes, for the betterment of the health and safety of the state. And I think especially during COVID, we recognize the sacrifices that many people have made, and it's a true reminder of the sacrifices that individual made for the health and safety of the entire state. So because of that, it's kind of an unusual move, and we wouldn't do this for many of the circumstances, but people took time to come here specifically to testify on this, and it's something that I think many of the members of this committee would like to at least show their support. Okay, so and technical and non-substantive changes. Any discussion?
So the bill is clean.
It is clean. July 1, 2022. Okay, with that, any discussion? Please take the vote.
Okay, we're voting on Senate Bill 3338 SD1 with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Representatives Bronco.
Aye.
Eli.
Aye.
Hope.
Aye.
Iligan.
Aye.
Kobayashi.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Nishimoto.
Aye.
Caruso. Excuse. Sayama.
Aye.
Tam.
Aye.
Todd.
Aye.
Wahlberger.
Aye.
McDermott. Excuse.
Okay, thank you very much, members. Let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 3094, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. This is making an emergency appropriation for virtual school. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 3094 SD2 HD1 as is, noting the excuse absent Representative McDermott, which will be throughout this agenda. Are there any reservations or no's?
And Bruce.
Sorry.
Bruce is absent.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and Peruso. Sorry, step. And Peruso, and throughout the rest of this agenda. Any reservations or no's? Adopted.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 3095, Senate Draft 1, House Draft. Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 3095 SD1 HD1 as is. Any reservations or no's? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 3098, Senate Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as a HD1, inserting the $1,850,000 for the lead abatement for what's currently needed, with the effective date of July 1, 2000. No, it should be upon approval. Just a sec. So it will be upon approval so that they can use this funding right away, and technical non-substantive changes. And if I could encourage AS Tanaka to give us a ballpark estimate for the rest of the lead abatement needs so that we can insert that into the budget for the next fiscal year. Okay, thank you very much. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 3098 SD1 with amendments. Any reservations? No's? Adopted.
Thank you very much. Next up is Senate Bill 2817, Senate Draft 1. This is the recommendation is to pass as a HD1, making the effective date upon approval, and technical non-substantive changes, which will make this bill clean as it goes over to the Senate. So members, if you can take a look at this further as it goes to the floor, because there might not be an opportunity for you to vote on it again if the Senate moves to agree. But I think, this is basically substantive, just housekeeping measures that we need to pass anyway. Okay, if not, please take any discussion. If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 2817 SD1 with amendments. Any reservations? No's? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2824, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? Not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2824 SD1 HD1 with amendments. No, as is. As is. Any reservations or no?
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2862, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2862 SD1 HD1 as is. Any reservations? No's.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2893, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 2893 SD1 HD1. Any reservations? No's. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2818, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 2818 SD2 HD1 as is. Any reservations? No's. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2816, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill-
Representative Tam.
I'll be voting with reservations on this measure. Based on the testimony, I'm uneasy with where the funding is going and being directed.
Thank you very much. Representative Martin.
Also with reservations, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 2816 SD2 HD1, noting the reservations of Representative Martin and Tam. Are there any other reservations? No's. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2081, Senate Draft 2. Recommendation is to pass as a HD1, making the effective date July 1, 2022, only because we need to attach HD1 on it. It still has a blank appropriation, so it's not clean. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 2081 SD2 with amendments. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 3190, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 3190 SD2 HD1 as is. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2182, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2182 SD1 HD1 as is. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2184, Senate Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as a HD1. This will insert a July 1, 2022 date and technical non-substantive changes. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 2184 SD1 with amendments. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2823, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2823 SD2 HD1 as is. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2822, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2822 SD1 HD1 as is. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2186, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 2186 SD2 HD1 as is. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 3369, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 2. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 3369 SD2 HD2 as is. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2385, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 2. It seems like this still has a long way to go to come to an agreement with many of the parties. It seems like even if they agree, they didn't really want to agree. So with that, defer. Next bill is Senate Bill 3040, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 3040 SD2 HD1 as is. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Next up is Senate Bill 2387, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 2. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Voting on Senate Bill 2387 SD1 HD2 as is. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 3252, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as a HD2, adding 2 positions and funds to OIP and technical two position and blank funding for OIP and technical non-substantive changes. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 3252 ST2 HD1 with amendments. Any reservations? Noes? Adopted.
Okay, next up is Senate Bill 3282, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 2. I have received several amendments, but after looking at the amendments, because the bill will still need to be cleaned up in conference, instead of making the extensive amendments, we will ask the GVR Vice Chair to work with the Senate counterpart to work on additional amendments in conference. Okay, and then I don't have, I didn't get a chance to talk to the Judiciary Chair for prior conference, so instead of delaying it even further, we should just move this along so we can clean it up in conference. So with that, recommendation is to pass as is, and if we can work with the Senate. Okay, as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 3282 ST1 HD2 as is. Are there any reservations? Noes? Adopted.
Thank you. Now let's move on to the second agenda. Members, we still have Agenda 2 and Agenda 3 and Agenda 4. So with that, if I could ask for your cooperation in going through our second agenda, which is our 2:30 agenda. First up, it is, thank you. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
But only this week. See what happens. See what happens when you tell us 3 to 7.
We will move on to our second agenda, Senate Bill 2865, Senate Draft, House Draft 1.
That's a big step.
Let's see. Is there anybody from Ohana Hui Ventures? Okay, if not, do we have Friends of Waimanalo? No, not here. Do we have the Hawaii State Energy Office on Zoom?
Yes, Chair.
Go
Hawaii
ahead.
State Energy Office stands on its testimony in support of this measure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next up is Equal for Life.
Hello, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and members of the Finance Committee. My name is Alika Watts. I am owner of Equal for Life, a small local company here, and I have submitted written testimony in support of this bill. This is an amazing thing that Hawaii can be doing in capturing CO2 from all the things that we have putting up in the air. And people have a misconception of how bad CO2 is, but actually, if it's used the right way, it can do some good things and move Hawaii forward. So thank you for my testimony and open for any questions.
Thank you. Next up is Dibs Hawaii.
Aloha mai kākou, Madam Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and members of the Finance Committee. Keone Ford, representing Dibs Hawaii. We appreciate the opportunity to provide our testimony for Senate Bill 2865 HD2, SD2 HD1. We show our full support in the issuance of special purpose revenue bonds to support the construction of a net zero carbon capture, storage, utilization platform to support the state of Hawaii in its agricultural and CO2 sequestration goals as we achieve climate resilience and smart communities as we adapt to climate change and adaptability. So mahalo nui for the opportunity. Aloha.
Thank you. Any other individuals wishing to testify either in person or on Zoom? If not, let's move on to the next bill. Senate Bill 2283. First up, it is University of Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, for this opportunity to testify. HNI supports this bill, supports the intent of this bill, but does offer some suggestions, particularly in the restriction on the definition of renewable energy, renewable hydrogen, and we do make recommendations in a written testimony. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, OA State Energy Office.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Maria Tomei, Hawaii State Energy Office will stand on our testimony with comments and a recommended amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Hawaiian Electric.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, members of the committee. Hawaiian Electric stands on its written testimony to support the intent of the bill, and we offer comments and a recommended amendment. I'll be available for questions if needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Servco Pacific.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, members of the committee. Myung-oh on behalf of Servco Pacific. We stand on our written testimony in support and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Hawaii Gas.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Hawaii Gas stands on its written testimony in support of SB 2283. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up is Hulupono. Thank you very much. Any other testifier wishing to testify on this bill, either in person or on Zoom? Ms. Sandy Wong, you wanted to testify on 2283?
No, sorry.
Okay.
I'm just being over anxious.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to Senate Bill 2720. First up, it is Hulupono.
Real briefly, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Mike Munikata with the Hulupono Initiative. I'd like to stand on our testimony and support, appreciating the amendments in the HD1 and really hoping that we can move this thing through. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is State Energy Office.
Aloha, we stand on our testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is the Department of Transportation.
Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, honorable members of the committee, the DOT is in support of the measure, and in the interest of time, we would like to stand on our written testimony. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Hawaii PUC.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair and members. David Parsons on behalf of the PUC. We're in support of this measure. I just wanted to highlight, we offered respectfully recommend an amendment to Section 7 to ensure the appropriation for the current fiscal year would not lapse before we could encumber the funds. And I'll stand on the rest of our written testimony again in support. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Hawaiian Electric. Hawaiian Electric. Okay, if not, Hawaii Auto Dealers Association.
Chair, Vice Chair, I'm David Rolfe with the Hawaii Automobile Dealers Association, and we'll stand on our testimony and support.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Ms. Sandy Wong.
Thank you. It is my turn now. So this is Sandy Wong on behalf of Tesla. We have submitted written testimony, which we will stand on. We are in very strong support of this bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier, either in person or on Zoom?
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tiffany Yajima with the Alliance for Automotive Innovation. We stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2570. Hawaii Energy Office.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Maria Tomei, Hawaii State Energy Office. We stand on our testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is University of Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita. The University of Hawaii stands on its testimony in support of this bill, but offering some comments, and I will be available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Hawaii PUC.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members. The Commission will stand on its written testimony and support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, it's Department of Transportation.
Yeah, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, honorable members of the committee. The DOT is in support of the measure. We'd like to stand on our testimony. However, we would like to note that we did send in a very late amended testimony, and we hope that you would consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Servco Pacific.
Afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, members of the committee, Myung-oh, on behalf of Servco Pacific. This measure established the zero emission vehicle fueling system rebate program. One thing that we have seen through this measure currently as drafted is that it limits to fuel sourced only from renewables. We believe that if the intent is to provide broader adoption of alternative transportation other than combustible or EVs, we ask that hydrogen not be limited to only renewables. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up is Hawaii Gas.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Hawaii Gas will stand on its written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Alliance for Automotive Innovation.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Tiffany Yajima for the Alliance for Automotive Innovation. We stand on our written testimony in support of this measure and also note that we share the concerns raised by Servco and respectfully request the same amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ulupono.
No, Chair, Ulupono will stand on its testimony supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifiers wishing to testify either in person or on Zoom? Okay, if not, questions, Representative Kobayashi.
For Servco, you have a hydrogen refueling station. What kind of hydrogen are you using? Completely non-renewable? Or, I mean,
No, thank you for the question. My understanding for Servco Pacific is that they actually produce on-site using electrifying water passing through current and causing certain chemicals to split, so the hydrogen and oxygen. So they do produce it on site. It is in Mapunapuna, and I think that over time, our charging station, you bring in a vehicle, you can charge it within 5 minutes, whereas from a level 2 charger from a traditional EV, for argument's sake, it does take several hours, up to 8 hours from what
so you're using electricity, which
correct.
is produced through probably oil to produce oxygen, to produce nitrogen.
Correct. I think ultimately, hydrogen or EV does utilize certain type of, as you say, fossil fuels. So unless you have a direct access to, let's say, solar or water renewables, I think that is something that we're asking for in terms of parity.
What about the 2 military hydrogen refueling stations?
Sorry, Representative, I'm not familiar with those, but I could look into them.
No, that's all right. That's right. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 3325. First up, it is Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Aloha, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, members of the committee. My name is Danielle Bask, State Sustainability Coordinator from the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. We offer testimony supporting the intent of this measure with some comments that I'd like to share. For the past 5 years, OPSD has been researching, publishing materials, and working on carbon sequestration issues via the Greenhouse Gas Sequestration Task Force, which is administratively attached to the OPSD. This bill particularly creates a carbon smart land management assistant pilot program, which is modeled after a demonstration project of the Greenhouse Gas Sequestration Task Force. Furthermore, the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development did publish the feasibility and implications of establishing a carbon offset program back in 2019, recommending both against the establishment of a carbon offset program and recommending the use of an alternative funding mechanism, which is carbon sequestration incentives, such as what is described in this measure. Additionally, as one of the state's 2 climate-related boards and commissions, the Sequestration Task Force, which is administratively attached to the OPSD, does include a 19-member permanent task force with a range of experts from forestry, agricultural, land use, academic, and soil science. So we do think that this task force does have a lot of experience in this subject area and has since, published 3 projects since 2019 listed in our testimony. Given the intense land use planning and land management of this bill, the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development strongly recommends the legislature consider the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development as the centralized coordinating agency of the proposed Hawaii Farmland, Forest Health, Soil Health, Carbon Smart Incentives Program. We thank you for the opportunity to comment on this measure. I'm available for questions. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Next up is DNR.
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. My name is Leah Laramie for the Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our testimony in support with comments. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next up is Department of Agriculture.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke and members of the committee. Morisata on behalf of the department. The department will stand on its written testimony expressing its preference for OPSD to lead this effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, it's Next up is Hawaii Gas.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Jill Yanker with Hawaii Gas. We'll stand on our testimony offering comments on this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testifier, either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions? Okay, if not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 3004. First up, it is Department of Agriculture.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, members of the committee. Morisata again with for the department. The department will stand on its written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Hawaii Farmers Union United.
Afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Hunter Hevelin here on behalf of Hawaii Farmers Union United. We stand in support of our written testimony and in strong support of this measure. Happy to answer.
Thank you. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2998. First up, it's Department of Health.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, members of the committee. My name is Michael Burke. I'm with the Hawaii State Department of Health. We submitted written testimony in support of this measure, and we stand on our written testimony. I'm available for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2612, Senate Draft 2. First up, Department of Education.
Hello, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, Jeremy Koki with the Department of Education, Office of Facilities, on behalf of Interim Superintendent Hitayashi. Department stands on its written testimony in support of the intent of this measure. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Beach Environmental Awareness Campaign Hawaii.
Aloha, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and members of the Finance Committee. My name is Suzanne Fraser. I'm testifying in support of SB 2612 SD2 on behalf of Beach Environmental Awareness Campaign Hawaii, or BEACH. This measure establishes a reusable utensil pilot project in the Department of Education schools on Molokai. Every single school throughout Hawaii should be using reusable utensils. This is the most cost-effective, efficient way to provide utensils and not produce unnecessary waste. Dishwashing machines can be purchased to ensure that the utensils are sterilized properly. As long as pods are not put in the dishwasher, then no plastic pollution in the environment is created. I'm concerned this is only a pilot project for 11 months and wondering what will happen to the utensils and dishwashing machines that are purchased should there be no further fundings, and there's no reason for further funding once these things are purchased. So can this be a long-term project is our question. And it really should be a permanent change to the way schools operate using reusable utensils. It needs to be in every school. It's such an easy step towards plastic reduction, and it's sad that schools change from metal to plastic in the first place. It's so wasteful in terms of both cost and to the environment. One testifier wrote that $500,000 has been used on disposable plastic at the charter school in Molokai over the last 20 years, and a huge amount of plastic waste has been added to the landfill as a result. We'd like to see this bill amended to go beyond a pilot project to a permanent change to all schools throughout Hawaii, a mandate to stop wasting taxpayer money on disposable unnecessary plastic in schools, and put in place reusable utensils, plates, and cups. Thank you for this opportunity to provide testimony in support of this bill.
Okay, any other testifier, either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 3019. First up, it is DONR. Last call for DONR.
Good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair and members. This is Lieutenant Henry Heine with DoCare. The Department of Land and Natural Resources, DoCare, stand on written testimony, and would like to also add that this accreditation project would run anywhere from 3 to 5 years, with possible $1 million on the first year and $750,000 for each year afterwards. That breaks down to hiring accreditation managers, training for officers, equipment, as well as upgrades to facilities to meet CALIA accreditation standards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Denise Antolini.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm going to stand in strong support. This is a huge step forward. We appreciate the committee hearing this bill and open for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier, either in person or on Zoom? If not, questions, Representative Kobayashi.
For DLNR, what if the money were spent on hiring new personnel, new DoCare officers?
Currently, we are hiring officers and preparing for another academy. I don't know where our current manpower level is compared to what it actually should be. That would be something that would have to be researched. But even if we hired officers, we would not be able to obtain accreditation without doing what I just got done stating, because we are nowhere near meeting the CALIA standard at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 3134, DNR.
Aloha, this is Emma Ewan with DLNR. We stand in strong support of this measure, which would increase efficiency for our legacy line program.
Thank you. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to Senate Bill 3330, first up, DLNR.
Aloha, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, members of the committee, Brian Nielsen. We stand in strong support of this measure. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Ms. Denise Antolini.
Aloha again, Chair Luke and members of the committee, in strong support. I just want to point out the background in back of me is the place that you are helping to save, the Pupukea Marine Life Conservation District, one of the 11 outstanding MLCDs in the state, and we only have 3 on Oahu. So your support for this carrying capacity study is much appreciated. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2768. First up, it is Hawaii State Energy Office.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Maria Tome, Hawaii State Energy Office, in support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, it is DLNR.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. DLNR stands on its testimony and support. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next up is Kupu.
Aloha, Chair Luke and Vice Chair Yamashita and members of the Finance Committee. Thank you so much for hearing this bill, and thank you for your past support of previous versions that have served and supported our Green Job Youth Corps programs. We've had the opportunity to see a really impactful program over the last few years that has helped to create job opportunities in the green job sector, to help us to move out of COVID, but also to employ over 360 individuals in past years, having tremendous agricultural, conservation, and sustainability impacts. Seeing during COVID, we had about a $6.5 million socioeconomic impact, which is more than double the cost of the program, while creating very impactful milestones for us to plant out acres of native species and remove invasive species as examples. This past year with Act 181 funds, we've been able to hire 116 individuals across the state. We had on average about 2.5 times the applicants for the positions provided. And for the different sites that were given participants, we had about 119 organizations across the state in sustainability, conservation, agriculture, and clean energy apply for positions. For about 286 positions were requested, and we were able to provide positions to 72 of the host sites that came in to request. So there's a high demand. It makes a lot of really great economic impact. It's creating great short-term impacts, but more importantly, it's creating great long-term impacts, building up our capacity and runway for our next generation to be leaders in these growing green job sectors. Thank you so much, and we appreciate all of your support. Aloha.
Thank you very much. Next up, it's Reuse Hawaii. Okay, if not, Beach Environmental Awareness Campaign Hawaii.
Aloha, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and members of the House Finance Committee. I'm Suzanne Fraser, President of Beach Environmental Awareness Campaign Hawaii, speaking in strong support of SB 2768 SD2. We've had the opportunity to participate in this program, and it's so beneficial to both us and the participants. We really have appreciated it, and we hope this program can continue with further funding. The participants get a lot of knowledge and work experience in the conservation field that they wouldn't have got otherwise through their studies or any other way. We'd like to reinforce and suggest that the age limit is raised back to 40 years old. And the reason is because we actually currently have Kupu Aina Corps members with us, and one of them's 40 and the others are 20. And the 20-year-olds are learning from the 40-year-old, and the 40-year-old is learning from the 20-year-old. So, you know, really, it's very beneficial, I think, to have a variety of age groups involved in this program. Thank you very much for this opportunity to provide testimony in strong support of this bill.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 206. First up is Hawaii Civil Rights Commission.
Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and members of the Finance Committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify on this measure. The ACRC supports Senate Bill 206, but urges this committee to return the measure to its previous draft from the Senate. The Civil Rights Commission has supported the intent of this measure over many sessions, but the current draft defeats the purpose of the bill. At the very least, it undermines it. The measure is meant to prohibit housing discrimination based on participation in the housing voucher program. It allows for a private right of action and may impose a penalty against the landlord, no damages. The elimination of attorney's fees will greatly limit access to the courts. A voucher holder would have to bring a case pro se against the landlord, who would likely have a lawyer. Further, the House draft added the exemption of landlords who own 6 or fewer units. And it's not clear how a renter would have that knowledge or information that a landlord falls within that exemption. The Civil Rights Commission has set forth our concerns in our written testimony, and we do support the intent of the bill and urge you to return to a previous draft. Thank you very much. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Next up is Governor's Coordinator on Homelessness.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, and members. Scott Morishige, Governor's Coordinator on Homelessness and Chair of the Hawaii Interagency Council on Homelessness. I support the intent of this measure, but similar to the Civil Rights Commission, prefer the language in the Senate Draft 2, which has stronger source of income protections. I'll also note that strong source of income protections are a key priority for the Hawaii Interagency Council on Homelessness this year. And thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Next up is Department of Human Services.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Joseph Campos, Deputy Director, Department of Human Services, here on behalf of Director Betts. The Department of Human Services appreciates the measure's intent, but respectfully opposes the current draft. The department prefers SD2 as it includes more sources of income and consumer protections. We respectfully suggest that the legislature restore the SD2 version and as a compromise at a sunset date to see if the measure adversely impacts landlords as the opposition surmised. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up is Hawaii Public Housing Authority.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. The Hawaii Public Housing Authority stand on its testimony, appreciating the intent and offering comment. Mainly, we believe that no one should be exempted from discriminating against the tenants. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke and Vice Chair and the members of the committee. Michael Galoyu Jr. on behalf of the Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. We do support the bill's intent, but we do stand firmly behind what the Hawaii Civil Rights Commission stated in some and the other testifiers presented to you. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Next up, it's Catholic Charities Hawaii.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke and Vice Chair Yamashita. I'm Betty Lou Larson, representing Catholic Charities Hawaii. We have the same concerns as expressed by the Civil Rights Commission, but we also have other concerns. There's a very narrow definition of what a housing assistance program is. And this would perhaps defeat the purpose of rental subsidies that the legislature is looking at for elderly through the rent supplement program at HPHA. That would not be covered. And so many of our seniors desperately need that extra $500 a month to make it. And they wouldn't be covered with prohibition against discrimination. Also, nationally, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities recently found that nationally rents have gone up 17% since February 2021 to 22. So they found that the best way for the government to deliver really large-scale assistance to renters is the voucher program. But this has to be open to people. We have to have landlords who will accept it or understand the program. President Biden has also proposed an additional $4.7 billion for housing vouchers, which, if not used, could be lost to the state. So we really encourage you to look at a bill that would be clean, clear, and straightforward. That's what we need so that both landlords and tenants will understand what is prohibited, what is discrimination. Right now, it's very unclear. So thank you very much. And we do, again, support putting back the language in SB 206 SD2, which would be much clearer and easily understood. Thank you for listening to our testimony.
Thank you very much. Next up is Partners in Care. Partners in Care.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Bob Wardlaw. I'm representing Partners in Care. We echo our colleagues' comments supporting restoration of the language from SB 206 SD2. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Next up is ACLU. Okay, next up it's Legal Aid Society of Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair and the committee. This is Dan O'Mara from the Legal Aid Society of Hawaii. We mirror a lot of the comments that were previously made, and in our testimony, we made very specific suggestions to changing the definition of a housing assistance program exemption. And we would also, and did suggest in our written testimony, that rather than a fine or penalty, which would involve state action, that this be a privately enforced action in court, so that there's no need for fines or penalties to be sent to the general fund or for the state to undertake any sort of enforcement of it. We made all our comments and they're in our written testimony and stand on it here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2588. First up, it is Hawaii Public Housing Authority.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We send in our testimony in strong support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other testifier? If not, questions? Representative Kobayashi.
For Hakeem, what's the dollar amount of your backlog?
Based on the last study that we have done, to get everything up to par and to bring everything to ADA standards and everything else, it's above $700 million. What this appropriation does is just to make sure that all the vacant units are put back into inventory expeditiously.
700 million. So you've made a little progress.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2504. First up, it's Hawaii Public Housing Authority.
Aloha again, this is Hakeem Wansafi. We send in our testimony offering comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Governor's Coordinator on Homelessness.
Good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair. I'll sign my written testimony supporting the intent and deferring to HBHA. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up is Catholic Charities Hawaii.
Aloha, Chair and Vice Chair. I'm Betty Lou Larson with Catholic Charities Hawaii. We'll stand on our written testimony, and thank you for hearing this bill.
Thank you. Next up is Partners in Care.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Bob Wardlaw, testifying for Partners in Care. Just want to say that we support this measure and want to point out that we've served more than 1,000 individuals with housing over the past 2 years, and this funding source has only been used in a few situations. And we also want to point out that this is a very useful tool for landlords when issues with maybe difficult tenants come up. We're there to provide that support and that mediation. So thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2251. First up, Hawaii Public Housing Authority.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chairs, members of the committee. The Hawaii Public Housing Authority stands in strong support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to Senate Bill 2479. First up, Hawaii Public Housing Authority.
Aloha again, Hakeem Wansafi. We stand in support of this measure. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Hawaiian Telecom. Okay, State Council on Developmental Disabilities. If not, any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 12667. First up, HHFDC.
Aloha, good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, Denise Matsubar from HHFDC. We stand on our written testimony in support of this measure. It's needed to ensure that the state's hands are not unduly tied during negotiations for the Front Street Apartments ground lease. We would like to note that there has been an attempt at special legislation to appropriate not only rental housing revolving funds, but bond cap and a ground lease for one specific developer, as opposed to going through the competitive review process that all other developers must use. The state already paid $15 million to acquire the land under this property, and the judge has already ruled that this project must remain affordable until the year 2051. Due care and due process must be exercised by HHFDC as stewards of the state's limited resources. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Next up is Ahe Group. Okay, any other testifier? If not, questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2581. First up, it is Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Chair, members, Rodney Funakoshi from the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. OPSD stands on its written testimony supporting the intent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is DLNR.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Kevin Moore with DLNR Land Division. The department will stand on its written testimony offering comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testifier? If not, questions? Representative Martin.
I have a question. I'm not sure, maybe the Office of Planning could answer it. Is it accurate that any federal lands that come back to the state, DHHL has a first right of refusal?
Okay, I'm not sure of the exact process. I think there is a process that they also might need to also offer it to other federal agencies.
Oh yeah, I mean, after federal agencies, it comes back to the state. That
I believe
that case.
I believe so, but I'm not sure.
So how would that, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2372. First up, it is HHFDC.
Thank you very much, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita, members of the committee, Denise Matsubar for HHFDC. We stand in strong support of this measure for particular sections, including the significant infusion of rental housing revolving funds, and also Section 5 in Part 2 of this measure presents a very unique opportunity to buy down the cost of for sale housing and continue the pipeline of projects. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up is Governor's Coordinator on Homelessness.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Yamashita. I support the intent of this bill, but ask the committee's consideration for amendments to designate a portion of the appropriation from the Rental Housing Revolving Fund in Part 1 for supportive housing projects for vulnerable individuals who require long-term housing and wraparound supportive services. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up, it's Catholic Charities Hawaii.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke and Vice Chair Yamashita and members of the committee. I'm Betty Lou Larson with Catholic Charities Hawaii. We also stand in strong support, especially of Part 1 of this bill, which would provide the $300 million to the Rental Housing Revolving Fund. And while it is not in my testimony, I would want to echo what the Governor's Coordinator on Homelessness said about providing a portion of this. I think 25 million had been designated in a previous bill, which has not yet been heard. We're very concerned about this gap, and we feel that is part of the housing continuum that really needs to be focused on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, it's Partners in Care.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Partners in Care stands in strong support of this bill, and we want to echo the sentiments from Ms. Larson and Mr. Morshige. And we want to point out that studies predict that an almost 300% increase in elderly homelessness over the next 10 years. And we think that this will go a long way in helping prevent that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mark Tom.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, department stands on its written testimony support.
Thank you. Any other testifier? Not questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2370, Mr. Mark Tom.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. The department stands on its written testimony support.
Thank you very much. And now Zoom testifier, DLNR.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, Pua Ayu for the Department of Land and Natural Resources. We will stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is DHS.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Joseph Campos, Deputy Director, Department of Human Services, here on behalf of Director Betts. The Department of Human Services appreciates the intent of this measure and provides comments. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up, Governor's Coordinator on Homelessness.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members. I'll sign my testimony supporting the intent. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up is Partners in Care.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Partners in Care stands on our testimony offering comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testifier? Not questions? If not, let's move on to the last bill, Senate Bill 2677. First up, it is Hawaii Public Housing Authority.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chairs, members of the committee. Thank you again for your hard work. The Housing Authority stands in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, it's Governor's Coordinator on Homelessness.
Good afternoon again. I'll start my written testimony supporting the intent and just suggesting a friendly amendment to change the word shall on page 3, line 17 to may, to encourage participation in the COC's coordinated entry system for homeless services rather than require it. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Next up is Catholic Charities Hawaii.
Chair Luke and Vice Chair Yamashita, thank you very much for hearing this bill. Catholic Charities stands in strong support of this bill, and in our testimony, we provide many stories of seniors who desperately need it. It's really something that could help so many of our seniors who've worked hard all their lives, but now are facing or are homeless. Thank you for hearing our testimony.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Zhi Zhong, and I'm testifying in strong support of the measure on behalf of Kapalama Neighborhood Security Watch. I'm a safety coordinator for our NSW. Homelessness is one of the most critical and challenging issues facing Hawaii. Safety concerns, addiction, and mental health conditions goes hand in hand with homelessness. Previous administrations have tried to address it, but Mayor Rick Badlangiardi approaches it from a brand new perspective. Since he's been in office, he's implemented a new strategy, CORE, Crisis Outreach Response Engagement. CORE is modeled after STAR, a program from the mainland. Data from STAR shows that within the first 6 months of operation, STAR responded to 748 homeless calls, and none needed police or law enforcement. A root cause of homelessness is mental illness. If this was a representation of homelessness, the flowers would be the fruits of homelessness: addiction, violence, criminal activities. The root causes of homelessness would be the stems, which would be the mental health conditions. What we see homelessness manifest into, and sometimes these derivatives are also the root of homelessness, is addiction, substance abuse, and domestic abuse. These are classified as mental health conditions. Mental abuse and substance abuse and mental illness are all classified in the DSM-5. The measure outlines a plan to develop and test innovative solutions. It could be advised to the legislature to consider requesting the Office on Homelessness and Housing Solutions to work directly with Mayor Badlangiardi's office in regards to a plan. Initiatives to support CORE can include strategies to implement medical initiatives, raise awareness for mental health, disseminate medical information to the public, educate the public about the roots of homelessness and addiction, and partner with faith-based organizations who already have long-established relationships with the homeless people, i.e. Mayor Badlangiardi's April 2021 plan of commitment to Chinatown notes that the Department of Land Management will proceed with negotiating River of Life to relocate homeless feeding services to Iwalei. River of Life has been operating out of Chinatown to feed the homeless for 35 years. Without additional support, CORE will not be as effective as it could be. If the initiatives were to operate with CORE, both the initiatives and CORE would be more effective. In the mix of concerns regarding homelessness, we see other concerns arise that have become problematic. It is important to approach homelessness from a medical perspective, but it is also important to deal with the homeless safety concerns and their criminal activities. Too much compassion without justice wouldn't be fair. A positive solution to the safety concerns and criminal activities in regards to homelessness is to ask elected officials, City Council, and HPD to actively support NSWs and citizen patrol groups. The Waikiki Citizens Patrol was recently on the news. With the recent resolutions SCR 88, HCR 157, SR 78, additional staffing and resources are being requested for Y&I. That is a necessary legislative action. As the safety and security of citizens need to be provided for. After all, a core principle of our democracy is to ensure domestic tranquility and peace for the people. A collaboration of the state, medical providers, faith-based organizations, HPD, CORE, NSW, citizens-led safety initiatives could be an innovative solution to address homelessness and safety concerns in Chinatown, Kalihi, Waikiki, and Waianae, and other places as well. It could ensure domestic tranquility for the people of Hawaii, and that tourists are not dissuaded from visiting these beautiful places on Hawaii. Thank you for the chance to testify.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? If not, questions? Representative Kobayashi.
For Governor's Coordinator on Homelessness. Does it make sense to use a single date, single age for this program? As opposed to either lowering the age or giving priority for a certain group of people, shall we say 62 or 65 or older?
Thank you, Representative, for the question. I think as currently drafted, the bill targets those who are 62 or older. And as stated in the testimony, I believe, from Partners in Care and Catholic Charities, there is a need for dedicated housing for that population. I also note that I appreciate the amendments of the prior committee to expand the existing state rent supplement program rather than create a new program as a way of targeting needs of that group. I hope that helps answer your question.
So you don't see a need to be more flexible about the age?
I think that there are other programs that are available in the community. And I think that there's a specific need for this segment of the population in terms of just anecdotally, for example, my office has seen increased numbers from seniors experiencing housing instability. And I think this program would be able to help meet that need.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, let's recess for decision making. Good afternoon, Committee on Finance will reconvene for decision-making on our 2:30 agenda. And following the 2:30 agenda, we will also go right into decision-making for 2:35 agenda, followed by 3:30 agenda. So because of 3:30 agenda, it's all DM. If the members could just stay, because we're just gonna go right into decision-making for the reso hearing as well. So with that, first up is Senate Bill 2865, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, moving on, Senate Bill 2865 SD2 HD1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Representative Blanco. Aye. Eli.
Aye.
Holt. Hugh. Iligan.
Aye.
Kobayashi. Martin.
Aye.
Nishimoto. Caruso, excused. Sayama.
Aye.
Pam.
Aye.
Todd.
Aye.
Wildberger.
Aye.
And McDermott is excused. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2283, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2283 SD2 HD1, noting the excused absence of Representative Holt, Caruso, and McDermott, which will be for the rest of this agenda. Are there any reservations or no's? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2720, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as a HD2, blanking out the amount and technical, not substantive changes. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2720 SD2 HD1 with amendments. Any reservations? No's? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2570, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2570 SD2 HD1 as is. Any reservations? No's? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 3325, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on 3325 SD2 HD1 as is. Any reservations? No's? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 3004, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 3004 SD1 HD1 as is. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2998, Senate Draft 1. Recommendation is to vote as is. This is clean. So it will go straight up to the governor's office once the House passes it. Okay, any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2998 SD1 as is. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2612, Senate Draft 2. Recommendation is to pass as a HD1, inserting the effective date of July 1, 2022. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 2612 SD2 with amendments. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 3019, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 3019 SD1 HD1 as is. Any reservations? No's? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 3034, Senate Draft 2. Recommendation is to pass as a HD1, making it upon approval. So this will also be cleaned up and technical non-substantive changes. So if the Senate move to agree, this will be enrolled to the governor. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voted on Senate Bill 3134 SD2 with amendments. Any reservations? No's? Adopted.
Next up is Senate Bill 3330, Senate Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as a HD1, inserting the effective date of July 1, 2022. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 3330 SD1 with amendments. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2768, Senate Draft 2. Recommendation is to pass as a HD1, inserting July 1, 2022, and technical non-substantive changes. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 2768 SD2 as amended. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 206, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 2065 SC2 HD1 as is. Any reservations? Noes? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2588, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2588 SD1 HD1 as is. Any reservations? Noes? Adopted.
Next up is Senate Bill 2504, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 2504 SD2 HD1 as is. Any reservations? Noes? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2251, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 2. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? Representative Martin.
I'll be voting no, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2251 SD2 HD2. I'm sorry, reservations?
No, I think.
No vote for Representative Martin?
Oh, yes. No,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, there's a no vote from Representative Martin. Any other no votes or reservations? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2479, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2479 HD1 as is. Any reservations? Noes? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2667, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Senate Bill 2667 SD1 HD1 as is. Any reservations? Noes? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2581, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2581 SD1 HD1 as is. Any reservations? Noes? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2372, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as a H22, blanking out the amount and technical non-substantive changes. Any discussion? If not, please take the
Okay,
vote.
Senate Bill 2372 SD2 HD1 as is. Any reservations? As is.
No, HD2. It's 2372, right?
Yeah.
HD2.
As a HD, as amended. Any reservations? Noes? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2370, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2370 SD2 HD1 as is. Any reservations? Noes? Adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 2677, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, voting on Senate Bill 2677 SD1 HD1 as is. Any reservations? No? Adopted.
Thank you. Now moving on to the 235 decision-making only agenda. First up is Senate Bill 1121, Senate Draft 2. Recommendation is to pass as a HD1 with the concurrence of the Judiciary Chair. We will be inserting some of BNF's amendments, which limits the GE exemption to DHHL land, and also add use tax and technical non-substantive changes. Any discussion? If not, please take the
Okay, Senate Bill 1121 SD2 with amendments, putting the same members excused. Okay, are there any reservations? No? Adopted.
Next up is Senate Bill 2473, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as a HD2 thanks to the work of the majority leader in working with the agriculture chair. The recommendation is we'll also be including county and county stakeholder action in the planning process, and also prioritize local food production in ADC's planning process, and also further defecting the date to July 1, 3000, and technical non-substantive changes plus blanking out the amount. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 2473 SD2 HD1 as amended. Any reservations? No? Adopted.
Thank you very much. And lastly, Senate Bill 514, Senate Draft Plan. Recommendation is to pass as a HT1. This is a vehicle to allow us to meet the constitutional mandate of either depositing into the rainy day fund, OPEB, or debt service, but we will also be inserting into this section rebate language that was included initially in the governor's package because we will continue to entertain a possible rebate in light of the high gas prices and technical non-substantive changes. Blank rebate. Okay, any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, Senate Bill 514 ST1 with amendments. Any reservations? No. Adopted.
Okay, with that, we will go to the 245 agenda, and I will turn it over to Vice Chair.
Okay, members, we're gonna vote on
Okay, don't leave yet. We're voting on the results. Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna vote on all of them all at once. So that's yeah. So it's from House Concurrent Resolution 3, 4, and 5, which I assume may have issues. But then the rest of them from 16, the next 16 also will be as is. So all of them are as is. If you have any reservations or no's, you can state them or take a couple minutes to look at them all. And then we'll vote on them all at once.
Yeah.
All of them as is.
Thank you. If you could take a moment to take a look at all the results, and then I will be asking you folks by page so that it doesn't confuse me too. So let me know. You're good. Okay, are you guys okay? Okay, anyone voting with reservation or in opposition on page 1?
I'm voting against the 3 Seawall resos, please. HCR 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, and 5. Okay. Thank you very much. Any other no votes or reservation on the first page? Okay, and then any other reservation or no vote on page 2 other than Representative Wahlberger? I already have you know for HCR 5. Any reservation or no vote on page 2? If not, any no vote or reservation on page 3? If not, any reservation, no vote or reservation on page 4. If not, with the excused absences of Representative Hope, Peruso, and McDermott, all other resolution passes as is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, hearing is adjourned.